Hello, everybody, and welcome or welcome back to the second shelf and to another book haul. And you saw in the intro, the last book haul of 2025. But how can that be, you will ask, because it's only the end of November, and I normally have a book haul every month because yes, I buy books every month. Well, let me tell you, the books I show you now on the, 30th of November are the books for December. I always buy my books at the end of the month for the next month. And that means, yes, I will buy books in December, but they are for 2026. They are for January. And I'm not sure yet when I will do that book haul, but not in December anymore. Just in case you were interested. I have, if you saw the thumbnail and you counted, because I know you do, 8 books. But one is a duology that was that I bought as one book. So it's still 7 books. Like you care. Anyway, the first one, not a surprise at all, is Elizabeth George, The Punishment She Deserves. As you can see, a Lindley novel. And this is number 20 in the series. I just asked Heidi yesterday whether she might want to end the year with the 20th Lindley. I don't know. I will have to hear back from her, but if not, we will read it at some other time. And that means 20, 21, 22. 22 was the last book that was published just recently in September 2025. So I can for sure say we will finish this series in the first half of 2026, which I'm really, really excited and proud also. I don't think I've ever read a series that long and stuck with it and actually finished it. So yeah, this one is again, if you're not familiar with the Lindley, that's Inspector Thomas Lindley and his colleague Barbara Havers, and they solve crimes. There is a cast of characters that is recurring, friends of Lindley mainly. And there's also characters that only come, in one novel and we will never see them again. And this one is, another murder case as far as I can gather. And that's all I know. I can't even tell you what it is about exactly, but I do know from the previous books that Barbara Havers is professionally and personally a little bit in a pickle. And I'm hoping that in this book, Elizabeth George will give Barbara Havers a solution on how to get on with her life. I'm not going to say any more in case you want to read this book or start with the series, but that is the apart from the crime, there's always a focus on the personal development, and Lindley has some issues, relationship issues, but they seem to be okayish after the last book. But Barbara is definitely professionally and personally in a pickle. So we will see. Number 20. Then I bought a memoir, Elif Shafak. It's a bit of a glare. The Black Milk, published in 2007. Now, Elif Shafak is an author that I desperately want to love. And I tried because I saw interviews with her, and I think she's such an interesting author and has an interesting background life. She's from Turkey, if you didn't know, but now lives in London. And I read a couple of her books, I think 3 of her latest novels, and none of them worked for me. It was a 2-star rodeo. So I will give a nonfiction a try. And sometimes, if I know more about an author or am more familiar with the way nonfiction, I can give the fiction a try. I haven't read anything for some time. I didn't read her latest book. I think the last time I read something uh, was maybe 3 years ago. So if I like this one, then I might try to give her fiction another try, because sometimes it's, what happened with me in Arundhati Roy. I read The God of Small Things. It didn't work for me. I DNF'd her second novel when I tried it first. And then I started to read her nonfiction, and I got really into her way of thinking, into her way of presenting the world, and retried her fiction, and I loved them. I loved the books. So let's see how that works. Oh, and it's about, like it said, on motherhood and writing. She wrote this after she had postpartum depression in 26, when she gave birth to her first child, to her daughter. Then the books that I count as one, and that's Octavia E. Butler, the Earth Seed, I think it's called, the Earth Seed duology, Parable of the Sower. I always want to say Sawyer, but it's Sower, to sow, and Parable of the Talents. I have already read this one, but I need to reread it, because I'm really not remembering much. It's a dystopian sci-fi, starts in the late 2020s, so now. She wrote it in the 1990s, so that was way in the future, but it's now, actually. And the big issue is a climate catastrophe, climate change. And yes, again, she wrote this in the 1990s. We know what's coming. We have known what's coming for decades. So nobody can tell me when shit hits the fan, and it will at some point in the near future, that we didn't know. But anyway, so that's the setting. And then there is one woman, I only remember her first name, Lauren. I don't remember her last name. Olamina. And she has certain gifts. She is a super empathizer. That's what it's called. She can really tune into people's feelings. And the first book is her coming of age. And the second book is then when she became a leader, and she has to deal with the fallout of the climate catastrophe, and she wants to go to the stars. That's what I know. So I will hopefully in December first reread The Sower, maybe not word for word. It often happens to me that when I can't really remember much of a book, when I start rereading it, that I remember. And if that happens, then I might just, a skim read, but we will see. It had also, I'm known for the fact that it happened that I reread a book, and until the last page, I blank. So we'll see. The next one, we stay in the theme of dystopian, and that is The Dream of a Tree, Maya Lunde. Translated, it says here, from the Norwegian by Diane Oatley. As all of Maya Lunde's books are, this is the fourth and last book in the Climate Quartet. So another book about climate change, published, she started with the bees 20 something. I'm not sure, but this one is from last year, and it follows. We're now in 2110 in the north, and all of the books are previous books are connected in a way. Sometimes one of the protagonists will, go over, or there is a theme that is referred to, but they're still, you can read them independently. That's what I'm saying. But I read them in order, and I'm really curious how Maya Lunde will wrap up the stories that started with, as you can see, the history of bees. And again, something that you might be surprised that I bought, because I normally don't do fantasy, but I do like retellings sometimes. I think the Greek mythology retellings have gone a bit over the top in terms of everybody started writing Greek retellings, but this is a different retelling. So it's Emily H. Wilson, Inanna. And no, that's not the Emily Wilson who translates Greek poems, a translation of the Odyssey, which is fantastic, translation of the Iliad, which is equally fantastic. This is a different Emily Wilson. Maybe that's why they added the H. She writes historical fiction retellings, and this one is a retelling of the Sumerian mythology of the Gilgamesh epos. I read Gilgamesh when I was a teenager, and it's something that I was always intrigued by, because it's a very different setting than the very familiar, Odysseus, Virgil, the Iliad, Zeus. And this one is, I think it's 4 books in a series, if I'm not mistaken. And the first one is called, as you can see, Inanna, and she is the daughter of 2 of the gods. And I think she is the mother of Gilgamesh, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so I will give this a try, knowing that I have my issues with fantasy, but the Gilgamesh and Sumerians, that really, really interests me. So I hope this will be good. And if I like it, then I will read the other, I think, 3 in the series. Then we have another translated historical fiction. And again, yes, I know historical fiction is not my most favorite genre for some reason, but I do read it now and again. And this one really intrigued me because of the author, but also because of the topic, and that is Olga Raven, The Wax Child, translated. Do I have a translator here somewhere? Yeah, I think here. Translated from the Danish by Martin Atkin. So Olga Raven is a contemporary Danish author, obviously, because it's translated from the Danish. And I read a sci-fi by her a couple of years back, The Employees, and really, really liked it. Then I tried her next book, The Work was the English title, and I DNF'd it after a couple of pages. I thought it was boring and didn't interest me. Was set in contemporary times and dealing about a young woman struggling with her work and motherhood, and it just didn't gel. But because I loved The Employees and I thought it was really good, and this is not contemporary, like I said, it's historical fiction. So it's set in the 17th century, 1620, based on a real life person, Christence Krukov. And she was one of the few, if not the only, aristocratic woman in Denmark at that time who was burned at the stake because it was claimed she was a witch. So it's about her trial. And yeah, I'm very interested in, I'm a feminist, so I'm interested in that whole topic of the so-called witch trials. And please don't ever say that they burned witches. They didn't burn witches, they burned women. There are no witches. and they called them witch because they had too much power or they did something that people didn't like. But yeah, there were no witches burned, only women, only, quote unquote. Anyway, so I'm very interested in that topic. I read Silvia Frederici, who's an Italian philosopher, about that topic. And it's if you look at how many women were killed, were murdered, because most of those who were accused of witchcraft or sorcery were women, 80% were women. And it's more than 50 to 100,000 women who were murdered during that period in the 16th and 17th century. So it's a topic that really engages me. So I'm looking forward what Olga Raven does with that topic. And the last one I'm already reading, almost finished, and that is another Ursula K. Le Guin, Sea Road, Chronicles of Klatsand. This is a reissuing from this year. Or last year, but the book was actually published for the first time in 1991. Now, Ursula K. Le Guin is most known, of course, for her fiction and sci-fi and fantasy, young adult fantasy, her Hainish cycle, The Dispossessed, The Lathe of Heaven, The Left Hand of Darkness, that type of thing, and the Earth Sea cycle, which is more fantasy. But this is actually contemporary literary fiction. It's set in present day when she wrote it, so in the 1980s, in a fictitious town, Klatsand, a seaside town in Oregon, where she came from and where she lived. And it's interconnected short stories focusing on visitors who come and what they want from their visit, but also some of the protagonists in some of the stories are hotel owners. You have 3 types of cabin hotels in that fictitious city, and it's just wonderful. She has such a way of giving you the life of a person within a short story. It's just amazing. It's melancholy. It's not, cheering you up. So maybe you don't want to read it in November, but I'm really, really loving it. So yeah, I will gush more about that once I finish. Oh, and I'm reading this with Adam because we're still making our way through all of Ursula Le Guin's fiction. And I think after this, we have only 4 more books that we want to read. So maybe we will finish next year or the year after. Anyway, so this was my November bought books for December book haul, probably the last book haul of the year. You never know what happens with me. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. And as always, please leave me a comment and I will see you all soon in the next one next Sunday.